Gather round and welcome back to another edition of Todd Talks College Football. Today we got a show for you as we break down the SEC. That's right, the Southeastern Conference, the best conference in college football, if you ask them. Well, we are going to compare the over-unders from FD and DK, two of the popular sports books on your phone, and see where they have the opening line over under total for these teams in the SEC and where we think they're going to finish the season. So we're going to go ahead and do this in alphabetical order, and we're going to hit off with the SEC and the Alabama Crimson Tide. All right, this is Kalen DeBoer's second season coming back at Alabama, and we have an over-under number for Alabama at 9.5. And I think this is a very good play on the over if you're looking at this schedule. We've got them opening up with Florida State, playing Louisiana Monroe, and Wisconsin. That is 3 definite wins there, folks. They're going to Georgia. They've won 9 of the last 10 against Georgia, and I think they're going to win another one this year to get them to 4-0. They play Vanderbilt at Missouri. I got that 2 more wins for Alabama, and we got a Tennessee and at South Carolina. I'm going to go ahead and give them a split there. I think that's at South Carolina might be the one that trips them up a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and give them a split, give them that first loss of the season. They got LSU and Oklahoma both at home the next 2 weeks, and I'm real comfortable they can win both those games. But just for argument's sake, let's go ahead and give them a split there between those 2 games there. Finish up with Eastern Illinois, and then obviously the Iron Bowl this year at Auburn. So if I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt of losing 2 potential games, the over-under is 9.5. I really like Alabama here on the over, at least 10 wins, potentially 11. Who knows? Could go undefeated there. I think over 9.5 is definitely the play here with the Crimson Tide. Up next here for the SEC is the Arkansas Razorbacks. Yes, Sam Pittman out there in Arkansas, bringing back a team that has a very challenging schedule, top 3 in the country, and it's not going to look great there in Razorback country. They have an over-under win projection on both boards at 5.5 wins. And I just don't see this happening, folks. We've starting off with Alabama, A&M, and Arkansas State, and we're going to go ahead and give the Arkansas Razorbacks 2 wins right out of the gate. They go on the road to Mississippi and Memphis, and I think they're going to drop both of those games real quickly there to drop to 2-2. They have Notre Dame at home and on the road at Tennessee. Again, 2 more losses in the column there. They get an Auburn and a Mississippi State coming to Arkansas. I'm going to give them a loss against Auburn and they win against Mississippi State. That puts them at 3 wins so far on the season. They finish off with this juggernaut of at LSU, at Texas, and Missouri at home to finish the season. Folks, there is not 5.5 wins on this Arkansas Razorback schedule. This is a great play to play the under 5.5 wins, no more than 4 in my book. I'm going to give that extra one to them, but 3 is really where they're probably going to finish up this year down there in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We're cruising through the A's here as we get to the Auburn Tigers. Yes, folks, it's Hugh Freeze's 3rd year down there in Auburn, and we are going to see if he can turn this team around from 5-7. Their line this year is 7.5 wins, and that's on both boards. So we'll see if we can get the Auburn Tigers to 7.5 wins. They start off at Baylor. I don't believe that's going to be a good start for them. They're going to probably drop that game. They got Ball State and South Alabama the next 2 weeks, and I feel comfortable that they're going to get both those wins down there in Auburn. They got on the road the next 2 weeks at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M, and it's not going to be easy. They might get one of those 2 wins, but I think they're probably going to drop both those road games to drop them to 2-4. They go Georgia at home. I'm going to chalk it up to a loss there for the Tigers. They got a nice little streak here. I think they can get on a run. They got Missouri at home, at Arkansas, Kentucky at home, at Vanderbilt and Mercer. I'm going to go ahead and chalk them up for 5 in a row there before they head into the Iron Bowl, which I think they'll lose to Alabama this year at home. So we had 7.5 on the over-under. We got them right now sitting at 5 losses. Could they pick up one of these wins? Could they beat Texas A&M? Could they beat Oklahoma? Could they sneak in there and beat Georgia in the oldest rivalry in the South? I'm not 100% sure. At 7.5, I think I'm going to stay on the under at 7-5, which would be a great improvement for Hugh Freeze over 5-7 last year. Gets them in a bowl, ready to rock and roll. But I'm going to keep Auburn at about 7 wins. Maybe they can sneak 8, but I'm not going to put the money at 7.5. Next up is the Florida Gators. Chomp, chomp. Yes, we are down in the swamp, and we've got an over-under for the Gators on both polls at 7.5 going into the season. And I think they could get there with this Gator team as long as DJ Lagway stays healthy and Billy Napier stays out of his own damn way. But let's take a look at the schedule. We start off with Long Island and USF, and we're going to chalk up 2 victories for that before they go on a really challenging 4-game schedule here where they blew at LSU, at Miami of Florida, Texas at home, and Texas A&M on the road. I really feel like if they can split those 2 games or those 4 games, the 2 back-to-back road, then the bye, then the home Texas, and then at Texas A&M, if they can get 2 of those victories, they'll be in good shape heading into the rest of the schedule. They then have Mississippi State at home. They got Georgia in the world's greatest cocktail party, I think is what we used to call it. I think they're going to win against Georgia this year. I think last year they could have won, and I think this year they're going to win. They got Kentucky, they got Mississippi on the road, they got Tennessee, they got Florida State. I'm going to give them wins in those games if DJ Lagway is healthy. I've got the Florida Gators 7.5 over under. I got them sitting at 9-3. At the very, very worst, 8-4, and at the very best, 10-2. I really believe this team can be very good this year. Again, barring DJ Lagway stays healthy, I'm going to go the over here on 7.5 for the Florida Gators. Up next, we're going to go down to Athens, Georgia, and talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. They're coming off of an 11-3 season last year, and Kirby Smart is one of the best coaches in the country, if not the best coach in the country, and we'll see where they're going to go this year with this team. They are at projection of 9.5 wins this year on the over-under, and that is on both polls. So we'll see where we go from here with this team. And they start with Marshall and Austin Peay. I think that's their 2 easy victories. They do have Tennessee on the road, but I think they're going to get that win as Tennessee tries to find their identity. They got Alabama at home the next week, and I think Alabama is going to beat Georgia. Alabama is 9-1 in the last 10 against Georgia, and I think they're going to be 10-1 in the last 11. They then go on the road, they got Kentucky at home win. They go on the road for the oldest rivalry in the South against Auburn, and I think they're going to get that victory. They got Mississippi the next week, another win. They got Florida on the neutral site, and I think they're going to lose that game, as I just told you in the Florida review. They got at Mississippi State, which is a chalk easy win. Texas at home. I'm going to give them a win against Texas. Charlotte to finish off before they go on the road to a neutral site to Georgia Tech, which I'm going to give them a loss in that game. Yes, folks, a loss to Georgia Tech. That puts me at 9-3. The over-under at 9.5. I think Georgia could pull one of those games out to get to 10-2. It's going to be a challenge. I don't like them against Alabama this year. I think they might struggle against Florida, and I do think, though, Georgia Tech or Texas could beat them. I'm going to stick at 9-3 for this Georgia team. Still, 9-3 Georgia will be a playoff team, but I'm not sure I'm taking the 9.5 on the over on this. I'm probably just going to stay away from the Georgia Bulldogs. Up next, we got the Kentucky Wildcats and Mark Stoops in his 13th year, and it might be getting a little stale down there in Lexington because this is not going to be a very good Kentucky Wildcat team based on what we're seeing on paper. The over-under wins on this for both teams is for both lines on both sports books is 4.5, and it is going to be dreadful for them to try to get to those 4.5 wins down there in Lexington. They start off with Toledo, and I hate to say it for the Kentucky Wildcat fans, but the Toledo Rockets are going to zoom in there and take a victory home, just like they did in Starksville last year against Mississippi State. And this year, you're not much better than Mississippi State, so Toledo is going to take that first win. They go Mississippi at home to start the SEC schedule, and that's just another loss in the record books for them. They do get Eastern Michigan in the third week, and we're going to give Kentucky a win here against Eastern Michigan. They got on the road at South Carolina and Georgia after a bye week, and that is not pretty for them. 2 more losses. They get another bye week, and then they got this monster. They go Texas, Tennessee at home, at Auburn, Florida, and that is a 4-loss stretch there for the Kentucky Wildcats. They do get Tennessee Tech, Vanderbilt, and Louisville to round out the season. I think they can win against Tennessee Tech, giving them a 3-2-1 2-win season at the best. The over-under's 4.5. We'll give them a win somewhere at 3. Maybe they can sneak out 4, but they're not. Nowhere close to getting to 4.5 wins at Kentucky. Well, we're heading down to Baton Rouge next for the LSU Tigers, and boy, this is a team that no one has pegged yet, and they got them up as 12-0. I've seen some people coming back at 7-5, and the over/under on the books are 8.5 wins for the LSU Tigers. And let's see where we might be able to get those 8.5 wins. They start on the road at Clemson. And folks, I hate to say it, Clemson's just so deep. The number 1 team in my Baker's dozen. They are just not going to be able to handle the Clemson Tigers in the other Death Valley. They do have Louisiana Tech the next win to get shaped up before they play the Florida Gators at home. And I think the Florida Gators are going to beat the LSU Tigers at home. Southeastern and Mississippi are the next 2 on the road at Mississippi. I still think it's a win. South Carolina at Vanderbilt, Texas A&M at Alabama. I'm going to give them 3 wins there. I think they could beat South Carolina. I think they could beat Texas A&M. I don't think they're going to win at Alabama. They got Arkansas, they got Western Kentucky, and they got at Oklahoma. Just pick them on the Oklahoma game. We'll see where everyone's at the end of the year. At 8.5 wins, I'm looking at this team as a 9-win team, 9-3. I think the worst case scenario would be 8-4, which would put us under the 8.5. But I really think the LSU Tigers will be fighting for a playoff spot at 9-3, and they could get to 10-2. It's not out of the realm of possibility here, but I think with the loss to Clemson, if they could beat Clemson, it'd give them a big run to get to 10-2, maybe even 11-1 there. So I'm comfortable at 9-3 here for the Tigers of Baton Rouge, and that'll keep Brian Kelly a little bit longer down there in Tigerland. Next up, we have the Missouri Tigers. We're going from Tiger to Tiger to Tiger down there in the SEC, and they're all playing Tigers, and all of this stuff is going crazy with the Tigers. We got 6.5 on the FD and 7.5 on the DK win projection, opening over-unders for the Missouri Tigers. Now, I think that this is going to be real hard to get to one, but probably a good bet on the other. So let's take a look at it here. They got Central Arkansas, Kansas, and Louisiana. I'm going to say they're going to win 3 games right there and get those victories. They got South Carolina and Massachusetts. I think they're going to lose to South Carolina, beat Massachusetts to start off the season at 4-1. It gets a lot rougher from there, folks. They got Alabama at home, ching it up as a loss. They're on the road at Auburn. I think after they get beat down by Alabama, it's going to be tough to go beat Auburn on the road. They got at Vanderbilt. I'm going to give them a win. They owe a bye week. They got Texas A&M at home. I'm going to give the Aggies the win here, which will put a loss. They got Mississippi State, at Oklahoma, and at Arkansas to finish the season. I'm going to chalk them up for a loss at Oklahoma and give them the other 2 wins, which will give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses. That puts them at 7-5. I think that's a good spot here for Missouri. 6.5 will beat it. 7.5, you'll be on the under. So you got 2 choices here. I would take the over at 6.5 or the under at 7.5, depending on what book you're playing for the Missouri Tigers. Starksville, Mississippi. Oh boy, it's going to be another dreadful year for the poor folks at Starksville. Jeff Levy coming back for a second season after going 2-10. Might not make it to 2 wins this year, folks, as he pulls the second toughest schedule in the country. The over-under win total on both books is 3.5. And boy, it's going to be a struggle to get there. They got the first 2 games, Southern Miss and Arizona State. Those are both going to be losses for the Bulldogs. They got Alcorn State and Northern Illinois. I'm not sure they can beat Northern Illinois, but I know they can beat Alcorn State. So we'll give them 2 wins there and give them the benefit of the doubt on the MAC school, which they didn't get last year. Tennessee, Texas A&M, at Florida, Texas, at Arkansas, Georgia, at Missouri, Mississippi. There is not a win in that group there, folks, for the Bulldogs. If they could pull one of those out, they could get to 3 wins. I don't believe they can get past 3. I got them as a 2-10 team again this year, well under the 3.5 on the line. Take the Mississippi Bulldogs and the under. We move across the state of Mississippi over to the Rebels of Ole Miss. And we got an over-under for the Rebels at 8.5. And honestly, folks, this number is too high considering where we've seen other teams at Florida at 7.5, LSU at 8.5, Georgia at 9.5. The Mississippi Rebels are not getting to 8.5 wins this year. I hate to say it for them, but let's start it off with a win at Georgia, or win against Georgia State, on the road at Kentucky with the win, Arkansas at home with the win. Then the trouble begins. They got Tulane, questionable game. We're going to mark them down for a win, but that could be a loss. LSU at home, Washington State at home. We'll give them a win there. We'll give them a loss against LSU. Then it gets a little rougher for a run here at Georgia, at Oklahoma, South Carolina. That's a bing, bing, bing. That's 3 losses in my book. Citadel for the win. Florida, I'm going to put them down as a loss. And they got the Mississippi State Bulldogs to finish the season, and they'll win that game. That gives me 5 losses, 7 wins. 7-5 is where this team's probably going to be. 8-4 at the very, very best. 8.5 on the over-under is just too much to get. Let's talk about the Oklahoma Sooners, and I think this is going to be a good year for Venables. He's going to get this team to the next level. Where is that next level? I'm not sure, but I think it's going to be over the 7.5 on the FD and the 6.5 on the DK. Books over underline for preseason Oklahoma. That's right, 7.5 to 6.5 wins, depending on what book you're looking at. And let's take a look at this schedule and see how we're going to get them there as the Sooners start with Illinois State. They're going to get a win there, and then Michigan comes to town. We got Michigan rolling in. It's going to be a defensive struggle. It'll probably be a 14-10 kind of game, but I think Oklahoma is going to pull that out. They got at Temple. How the hell did they schedule at Temple? But they're going to win that game no matter what. Auburn, Kent State, the next 2. I'm going to give them wins in those 2 games. They got Texas in the big one, and I'm going to give them a loss against Texas. They go on the road to South Carolina. I'm going to give them a loss after the loss to Texas to South Carolina. They got Mississippi at home, and they're going to get well in that game. They got at Tennessee, and I think they're going to pull the upset in Knoxville and knock off the old quarterback there at Tennessee. They got Alabama on the road at Alabama. We'll knock that down as a loss. Missouri at home and finish the season with LSU, and that's a loss. And I got an Oklahoma Sooner team at 8-4. They could get to 9-3, but I'm going to say for sure 8-4, which puts them over the 7.5 or 6.5 win total lines on both books. I think Oklahoma is going to be improved and surprise a lot of people. Next up, we got the Gamecocks of South Carolina, and boy, there is a lot of hype down there. Columbia looking forward to this season for the Gamecocks, and rightly so. They should be excited. They got one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC in LaNorris Sellers. So let's see where we're at. We have a 7-5 over/under on both books, and I think the South Carolina Gamecocks can get to 8+ wins this year. And let's see how they're going to do it. They start off at Virginia Tech. I think they're going to beat Virginia Tech on a neutral site. They got South Carolina State, Vanderbilt, and Missouri, or at Missouri, then Kentucky. That's 4 wins in a row right there. That's going to drop them up to 5-0 going into at LSU. And I think they're going to lose that game to the Tigers down in Baton Rouge. They got Oklahoma coming into next week, and I think they're going to get right and beat the Sooners. Got at Alabama, and I think that'll be a loss for sure. They got at Mississippi. I'm going to give them the win over the Rebels. At Texas A&M, I'm going to give South Carolina the win there too. Lenore's going to have a great game in that game. Coastal Carolina, and they finish off the season at Clemson, and I'm putting that down as a loss. So we've got 1, 2, 3 losses. We might rack up one more in there. Still well over the 7.5 number that we need to be at with 8 wins, but I'm thinking this could be a 9-3 South Carolina Gamecocks team and keeping their chances of a playoff hope alive. Next up, we're going to move over to Knoxville, Tennessee, and talk about the Volunteers. They have 8.5 wins on the books. Both books agree. 8.5 is the number to be here in Tennessee. So let's see what they can do. We've got Syracuse, a neutral site game to start the season, and I think the Volunteers will get a win there. East Tennessee State up next with the win there. They're going to be playing Georgia at home. I don't think they can beat the Georgia Bulldogs this year, so I'm going to mark them down for a loss. We got UAB at Mississippi State, 2 more wins to start the season, 4-1. We got Arkansas at home, chalk it up for a win. At Alabama, they're not going to be doing really well when they're singing Dixieland Delight and smoking cigars down there in Alabama and beating the Tennessee Volunteers. Are at the road, on the road to Kentucky. That's a win. They got Oklahoma at home. I've already told you I think Oklahoma is going to beat Tennessee in this game. That'll give them a loss. We got New Mexico State at Florida. I'm going to give them the New Mexico State easy win. At Florida, I'm going to put them down for a loss. And Vanderbilt at home with the win. That gives me 1, 2, 3, 4 losses for Tennessee. At 8-4, they're 8.5 on the line. I got them under. They could sneak out one of those games. They could beat Georgia. They could beat Alabama. They could beat Florida. But I don't think so this year, folks. And I'm going to put them at 8-4, just under the 8.5 win total. All right, down to Austin, Texas, and the Arch Manning Longhorns coming up next. And we got a line at 9.5. And this is a real tricky number, folks. They got it pegged for you to not make any money on this thing. We got the Texas Longhorns starting out, of course, at the Ohio State University. And I am going to give the Texas Longhorns the loss here on the road. They could win this game, but we'll give them the loss. But this could be the difference in the 9.5 wins. San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston, win. At Florida, I'm going to say they can't handle the heat in the swamp, and they're going to get beat by the Gators. They got Oklahoma in the neutral site Cotton Bowl game, and I think they're going to win that baby. They got at Kentucky, at Mississippi State, Vanderbilt. That's 3 more wins. They got Georgia on the road, and I think they're going to lose to the Bulldogs on their first trip there in a while. Arkansas and Texas A&M to finish it off, and I think they can beat Texas A&M at home. And we got them with a 3-loss schedule at 9-3. 9.5 was the number. I think they could win 10. I think they could win 9. 9.5. I don't know. I think I'd probably stay off of this bet and the Texas Longhorns over 9.5, under 9.5. It's going to be real close. It'll tell you after the first week if you should have made the bet. If they beat the Buckeyes, they'll probably get there. If they lose to the Buckeyes, they'll probably fall short. So that's where we're at with the Texas Longhorns, still in major playoff contention. Let's move across the state to the Aggies of Texas A&M, and we have a really interesting line here, folks. We got two numbers. We got 7.5 on the FD and 8.5 on the DK. And man, I got them pegged right in between those. So we'll see what we got here. We got UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio, the Road Runners coming into town. And although I think they could give them a game, I don't think they can win the game. And we're going to give Texas A&M the win. Utah State next week as the win. Then they traveled to Notre Dame. I do not believe they're going to beat the Irish on the road to give them their first loss of the season. They have Auburn at home, Mississippi State at home, and I'm going to give the Aggies both of those wins. They got Florida coming in to College Station, and I got them losing to the Florida Gators in this game for their second loss of the season. They got at Arkansas, at LSU. I'm going to give them the loss at LSU. At Missouri, I'm going to give them the win. South Carolina, I'm going to give them a loss at home to South Carolina. Sanford, easy win there. And then at Texas, I'm going to give them the loss. I have this team pegged at 8-4. So over 7.5 would give you a winner. Under 8.5 in the other book would give you a winner. It's right on the borderline, folks. This is an 8-4 football team. They could sneak up to 9-3, but I'm going to give them an 8-4 solid record for the Texas A&M Aggies and just missing the playoffs. And last but not least here for the Vanderbilt Commodores. And man, they got a little bit of a mixed season ahead of them. They had a 7-6 year last year, and they beat Alabama. But I don't think they're going to have that kind of magic this year, even though Diego's back at quarterback. So let's take a look. They got Charleston Southern and at Virginia Tech, and I think they're going to win those two games, although it will be a challenge for the home opener on the road at Virginia Tech Hokies, but I'm going to give them the win. They go at South Carolina the week after that, and that's going to be chuck it up for a loss. Georgia State, Utah State, 2 more wins for the Commodores, and that, my friends, is pretty much all she wrote here. She's got at Alabama, LSU, Missouri, at Texas, Auburn, and Kentucky. I'm going to get, can't forget at Tennessee. I'm going to give them 1 win in that final road stretch, and that's going to be the Kentucky game. I think the Vanderbilt Commodores are looking at a 4-win season under both the 4.5 on the FD and the 5.5 on the DK. I'm comfortable that the Vanderbilt Commodores are winning 4 games this season and being under both of those numbers. I'd take it under the 5.5 just to be safer, but definitely no more than 5 wins on this Vanderbilt Commodore schedule. Well, there we are with the SEC, and it's going to be an exciting year, folks. It's hard to say who's going to win this conference. It is going to be a brutal road for many of these teams as they navigate these schedules and some of these back-to-back games and back-to-back and then a bye and then 2 more back-to-back games. It's going to be rough and tumble, and we're going to see a few teams left standing. I think this conference is going to get 4, potentially 5 teams in the playoff. They will get the first 9-3 team in the playoff this year. You heard it here before in my last video. 9-3 is going to get you in the playoffs in this conference. Now, it might not get all the 9-3 teams in the conference in the playoff, but it's going to get 1 for sure in the playoff this year at 9-3. So 4 to 5 teams coming out of the SEC in the playoffs, and it's going to be a real great season to watch SEC football. All right, remember, all of this information is for fun and not for you to run out there and waste all your money gambling on an unknown sport called college football. I don't recommend it at all. Enjoy it for what it is, and that's the passion that the sport brings, especially down in the SEC. See you soon, and remember, gather around and ALTT.